Hello everyone. In this case we're going to be learning how we can apply a corona light and basically how we can turn this scene from daylight to nighttime. So first of all we have to go into this bulb icon, and in here we have the photometric system. However, we want to change it to corona. So let's just click it here and corona. And once we're here in corona, the only thing that we have to do is just to apply the corona light. So what we have in here, it's the intensity. We will also have the direct input in which we can control the color of the light and change it to whichever light we need it. Let's say that we need a warm light or more colder light, we would be able to control all of that. Now we also have the Kelvin temperature, so if I apply it and turn this to 3400, we will have a very warm light. In the other hand, if I turn this to 7500, we will start to see a more cold light. We also have the shape of the light that we want, and this is going to be very important for us, as for different types of lighting we will be using, for example, disc, and the shape of the disc is going to be more for spotlights. We also have rectangle lights, in which we're going to be using them to create different types of exterior lighting. We can also use this for interior lighting, obviously, specifically for office lightings in which we have to cover large areas. And finally, we also have the cylinder type of light, but this one is not very common to use. So let's try it out. And first of all, to make this scene from a daylight scene to a nighttime one, we have to go into our material editor and get into our HDRI. So let's go into the render settings now. And inside scene, we're going to be able to see what type of light we have applied. And it's the corona color correct, which means that we have this HDRI on. So basically, to turn this into a night scene, it's a bit more useful to apply a corona sky and then reduce its input. So let's do that. Let's click on the component and drag it all the way into the single map and instance it, of course. Now let's select the component, and inside intensity, we can apply a 0.01 value. Now let's go to the top of our scene tab and start the interactive. Okay, great. So we have this kind of lighting going on, and it's actually coming from our 3D assets. So we're going to be turning them off so that we can create our own interior artificial lighting. So let's close all of this, and now we can do that by going into our selection tools, and from all we have to change it to lights. And now I'm going to go ahead and select the object option so that I don't drag any items by accident. So let's pick this one, and then by hitting the control key I can also pick the one inside the light. Now if I press my Alt plus Q to isolate both of these lights, and if I go into the modifiers for this one, for instance, I will see that we have a corona light at 1800 at intensity, and also down here we have the shape as a sphere. So let's just delete both of these, and now let's start creating our own light. Now first of all, I'm going to be applying a disc light to our spotlights. So for this, let's go into our corona light, and now let's create a disc shaped light. And it's better for us to go into the top view, as we're going to be having to move this disc around, and we also need to match it with the spotlights up here. So let's go into this top view, and from here I can go ahead and create the corona light. Let's see that it's in the disc option, and now let's just create it in here. Take into account the radius that the spotlights have, and by pressing my W key I'll be able to go ahead and move this in the X and Y direction. Now I have to adjust the height, so it's better to go into the front view in this case and drag it all the way up here. And you can see that the spotlights are actually a little bit tilted, so we also have to tilt this disc light by rotating it. As easy as that. And now let's go into a left view and place this correctly. Let's use this one, and as you can see, we need to also rotate it at this side, and then by using the X and Y axis we can place it right over there, like so. Okay, now we can start the interactive render. So let's go into render setups and start interactive. And there's my actual light. Now I'm going to disable the bloom and glare, and also apply a region to this, because I only want to see this part of the render. It's not going to be really necessary to be rendering all of it and consuming our PC's memory. Now I will also go into the More File tab, and we can see that the intensity is at 1800 and the direct input, the color is pretty okay. And these parameters are actually taken from the 3D model that we had. So let's go into the Kelvin temperature for this. And a good warm light, it's going to be around 3400. Now something is actually lacking here from our spotlight. What if I wanted to have a uniform intense light going down? And this I can do by going all the way down here into our IES parameter. So in here we can actually go and click in this none option, and I'm going to just stop the rendering for now. So I'm going to click into this none option. As you can see, I also have an IES folder which I can play around with because I have multiple types of lights that we could use. For example, a good IES that I like to use is the downlight intense pure white. So let's select this one, and if we look carefully here in our scene, this light has been replaced by this IES type of lighting, which is a little bit more advanced than our usual basic light. So let's start the interactive render again and see how this works. And there we go. It's actually keeping the colors that we've applied, and it's not really producing a white light, as you can see. So that's a plus. We can also change it, and we can do this by going again to this option. And now let's see narrow bright, for example. Now this one is going to be a way more specific light that is going to be producing a direct light. You can try all of these IES if you would like. For the moment, I will use the one that we just had, which is the second option, downlight intense pure. It's a very nice type of lighting. Now if I stop my rendering, and let's wait for the auto backup, all right? And let's say that I want to apply the same light to all of these spotlights. I can just press my shift key and drag this as an instance. So whatever changes I make to this light, doesn't matter the intensity that would change or the actual temperature of it, it's going to be applied to all of these. So that is a very efficient way of working. Now what I need to do is to obviously rotate them so that they match the spotlight. So I'm going to do that right now. Let's just rotate them like so. And because this spotlight is actually in the other way, doesn't really have to be that precise. However, if we want it to be, we have to change the gizmo from a view to a local so that we can rotate it more precisely. All right, now let's try the x-axis, and there we go. Like so. And now we can just delete this one and copy the one that we have in here as an instance again. There we go. Let's adjust its position, and let's also try the interactive rendering. I'm also going to be disabling the region so that we can see how this is working. Alright, now let's stop the rendering and let's see how other types of light works. So the disk, as I've mentioned before, it's going to be for